Yes, I'm a cheating wife, and a liar, and a lousy mother. But at least I'm no whore, and no thief. You don't have to pay me for fun. I get paid for talking dirty. And I'm not a thief. I don't take stuff without paying, no matter what it's worth. I just pay the price. Yes, I've been cheating on my husband since about before forever, and I'm not about to stop. And he never even tried to stop me. I know he doesn't really like it, but he just can't stop me. And now it happens right under his eyes. It started in high school in San Diego in the late 1960s. I'm Sue-Ann. My big little sister. I'm older, she's taller, is Brenda. We're both medium height, medium build, mushy blondes, each just 1 inch either side of 5 feet 6 inches. We are very close, always have been. Our high school boyfriends were Brad and Randy, both tall, thin, dark-haired guys with hazel eyes, each of them 6 feet 4 inches. Brad the senior was going with Brenda the junior, and Randy the junior was going with me the senior. So none of us couples shared classes, but we all had lunch together. And we all went together. All shared. Brenda and I had always slept together anyway, and started exploring our bodies together, and touching and tasting and loving each other, back when we started showing boobs and pubes. Brad and Randy just added to the mix. They could almost be twins, even their long arms. Yeah, we went out double dating all the time. But we really liked to wait till somebody's parents were away from home for the evening. Then we would all jump into an available bed there and love each other silly. I loved Brad while my sister loved Randy. Brenda and I 69-footy while Brad and Randy jacked off each other. I loved Randy while Brad loved Brenda, and we swapped. It all got kind of sloppy and juicy and yummy there. We had fun. We were a happy foursome, except for the usual minor teenage angst. Brad and I graduated in 1970 and went on to the local junior college. After Brenda and Randy graduated high school, everything changed. Brenda went to college in Portland, Oregon, and Randy moved to Boston for university. Brad and I dated just about anybody who would have us. I followed William Burroughs' advice. If you want to get laid, go to college. If you want an education, go to a library. I went to college, hee hee. A year later, Brad and I finished junior college. Brad lost his student deferment and went to England to avoid the draft, and I miss Randy so much, I moved to Boston too, and convinced him to marry me. Not that I had been exclusive with Randy. Back home, I'd still been Brad, and Larry, and Carl, and Linda, and Ted, and Juan, and I think Steve and Felipe and Debbie, but I don't really remember them all. I was never going to be exclusive to anybody. Why be a liberated woman if you'll just wear chains? I still lived at home when I went to the community college. I was just another flaky liberal arts major, getting well-rounded or whatever. Nothing about job skills. I didn't need a lot of money and I'm pretty lazy anyway, so I didn't have to look for a serious job. I didn't want to work too much, just enough for pot and gas and clothes. I got lucky and found a perfect job for me, phone love. It started when Ted took me to a big adult bookstore in a shopping mall not too far from campus. Ted was scanning the racks for the latest Watusi Dykes Monthly. I was just looking around, soaking up the ambience. Remember, this was before home video. Yo, babe, you over 18? Let's see some ID. The chunky, balding, leisure-suited proprietor demanded. Sure, I'm an adult. What's it to you, fella? I smirked, flashing my driver's license as I stuck out my rather nice peach and flexed my tight calf muscles. I was born in 1951 and I'm 20 years old now. Hey there, sweetie, you got a pretty good voice. Say something nasty to me, He leered. How about this? I emoted sultry. You're a loathsome toad with a 1-inch pecker that itches and drips. You could get lucky tonight, with a jar full of chopped raw liver, or maybe a blow-up doll. Have you ever had love with the same living person more than once? I'll bet you raise scared sheep in your backyard. Oh, beautiful, babe! Your voice is perfect. How would you like a job, afternoons and evenings? A job? Doing what? And where? And how much? I was almost getting interested. Right in the back room, I got a phone bank back there. All you gotta do is talk dirty to the lonely slobs who call in. You get a comfortable seat and phone headset, some scripts to work off of and improvise on, all the drinks and snacks you want. Pay is straight commission. The bastards pay $3 a minute for every minute they're on the line. You'll get a third of that. You could make up to $60 an hour. That's almost as good as a lawyer or psychiatrist, yeah? Now I was definitely getting interested. I could make a load of money, just talking dirty? Love, yeah. The 1970s would sure be a good time for me. I started that evening. I soon slipped into an easy schedule, classes all day. Homework before supper. Phone love all evening, 4 or 5 hours, depending on the call volume. A quick comfortable love fest with some of my friends. More of the same the next day. And party all weekends. I could afford partying now. My workspace was much nicer than I expected, like a lounge room, clean and airy. Some stuffed chairs and couches, each position with a table with phone and headset and script folders. I worked with a constantly shifting varied crew of women with beautiful voices. Sometimes we got friendly, and sometimes we had friends in. I could talk real dirty when June or Thelema was kneeling between my legs, tasting me to hot ecstasy. Or when I slurped Norm's or Juan's big tasty cakes. Slurping sounds especially hot on a telephone. Our phone bank had a nationwide toll-free line. I stayed in touch with Randy at school in Boston. I talked to him for a few minutes at a time, a couple days each week. I told him a little bit of what I was up to, and he talked about his studies. He studied hard. He had to keep his scholarship. So I finished junior college and received my worthless AA degree. I decided to escape from the old home scene. I packed my gear in my new red Volvo. I'd finally dumped the old primer gray VW Beetle and headed northeast. San Diego to Boston, yeah, that's a nice transition, in summer anyway. I was in no hurry. I took 2 or 3 weeks to make the cross-continent drive. Up to Portland to see and taste my big little sister. Over to Boise, and down to Salt Lake City to audition as a Mormon sister wife. Not as much fun as I had expected. Across the scenic canyonlands to Albuquerque, then up to Denver, and east across the endless plains, flat as piss on a griddle all the way to Chicago. Through the nasty Rust Belt cities along Lake Erie in Ontario, and through a few not-so-rusty guys. Then across hills and valleys and fields and suburbs, into Boston. I found Randy in his scuzzy dorm and I moved right in with him. I took him out to dinner. He took me up my peach. I knew that we would enjoy living together. I had money saved, but it wouldn't last forever. Ernesto, who ran the adult books and phone love shop in San Diego, knew everybody in the business, and he had contacts in Boston. I was hired right away. I sprung my plan on Randy a couple nights after I moved into his dorm room. I had just given him a good love, me riding him to a long hot pleasure, while I had 3 or 4 screamers. I was collapsed on top of him, still semi-inflated and inserted deep into me. I whispered hoarsely to him, "Hey Randy, how would you like to get out of this dorm? I can get us an apartment just off campus. You'll get a quieter study space, a bigger bed, and me. Come on, I can afford this." "Sure thing, babe, why not?" "Yeah, I'd be glad to have a better space and less noise." "You'll pick someplace good, yeah?" "You bet, it'll be perfect for us." "Oh, you're getting hard again. Ready for another round, lover?" No, convincing Randy to leave the dorm wasn't too difficult. I was no great chef, so we ate a lot of Chinese and Italian and Indian takeout. I could easily handle the cost. It was lots easier than learning how to cook. But I bought us a microwave oven anyway. And not just for popcorn. Well, maybe mostly for popcorn. Whatever. Randy had tough classes just about all day, every day, it seemed. I worked in Silvio's phone bank most afternoons, complete with the usual fluffings to improve my mood and tone. I had my mornings and evenings free. Randy was usually busy studying most evenings, and just didn't have time for clubs and dancing on weeknights. So I had friends over most mornings, and I went out on dates after dinner. Randy was in an advanced biochemistry program. He was totally loving, dedicated to his studies, brilliant and hardworking, to the point where he didn't let outside distractions interfere with his concentration. He seemed to hardly notice that my love buddies and I used our room during the day, or that I was out till late many nights, or that I didn't always come home alone, or at all. He just fixated on learning all he could about his science. Things went well for that whole school year. Randy signed up for intensive summer session classes too. We only took a short vacation, if you could call it that, a week in Philadelphia. Randy spent the days at a goddamn biochem research lab. We loved a bunch in the evenings, then he slept for 10 hours, before going back to the lab the next day. I guess this was a busman's holiday, or some shit like that. I didn't hang at the lab in Philly. I wandered around town and found guys and girls to occupy me during the long, sweaty summer days. It was okay. There's an old joke about a contest where first prize is an all-inclusive 1-week vacation in Philadelphia, and second prize is a 2-week stay there. That's about right. But some of the animals don't know how to party. He returned home to Boston for a few days. Then I managed to drag Randy back to San Diego for another week off. He was resistant until I bribed him. What was the bribe? A wedding. Ours. The wedding was small and fast and informal. We got our immediate families and a few friends together in a Unitarian fellowship hall. Don't say church to Unitarians. We had our reception at a Red Lion Hotel banquet room, and honeymooned the next day at the San Diego Zoo. I had wanted the wedding to be at the Monkey House there. They turned us down. Nobody has a sense of humor anymore. Okay, the real honeymoon was a couple days in a seaside lodge in La Jolla. My sister Brenda and Randy's almost brother Brad stayed with us there. We all had fun loving each other again. So now I was Mrs. Randy Ronk. Life in Boston continued just about the same. Randy studied hard and loved me when he remembered to. I made money and partied hard with my friends. Randy hardly noticed this. Randy came home unexpectedly one morning after a lab session was cancelled. I was in the party room with Dave and Darla in January. We were in a nice quiet 4-way daisy chain when I heard the front door open, Randy stomping down the hall in his size 17 trail boots. Luckily, our room door was closed. Randy just walked down to the study room and immersed himself in data or whatever. We kept our pleasures fairly quiet till he left a couple hours later. Another time, I'd come home late with Hideo and Millie. We had been partying, drinking, dry loving on the dance floors of a couple or 5 hot clubs. We snuck down the apartment hallway, whispering like kids. We passed the open bedroom door. I saw Randy asleep in our bed, naked on his back, atop the covers. I just couldn't resist. He came like a stallion but never woke up. What a guy! Then I rejoined my friends in the party room. Millie was already riding Hideo like she was Dale loving Evans, and he was Trigger, his long, thin Japanese arms sunk deep into her beautiful saddle. I sat on Hideo's flat face and slurped Millie's fine, bouncy peach. Ooh, this was fun! After a few more pleasure, I threw them out and crawled into our marriage bed with Randy. In the morning, he told me about his great wet dream. I told him it sounded exciting. He got hard again, and did me like a dog, taking sloppy seconds or sixteenths or whatever. All went well for another few school years. Randy got his BS quickly, then got in a master's program and notched his MS in no time at all, and moved fast towards his doctorate. I kept having hot fun and making money. Because of my job, Randy didn't have to play any impoverished grad student games. Life was good. I had been on the pill since about forever, of course. The pill was reportedly 99.9% effective. That means that on any given day, and for 90% of each month, that did not matter, because I wasn't fertile then. So only 1 squirt out of 10,000 could ever be a risk. But the odds catch up eventually. I got pregnant. I was totally knocked up, higher than a kite. I thought about getting an abortion. But then I thought, hey, why don't I try the motherhood thing? It could be a different thrill. Yeah, right. But that's okay, I could afford a nanny housekeeper. Let her do all the dirty work. And Maria was a good love. I moved us all out of the apartment, into a nearby townhouse with a little backyard. I hired Hector from Haiti to be gardener and handyman. He was a pretty good love too. Very good, in fact. And party all I wanted, and not have to pay attention to the twins or the house. I had already paid to have the whole place soundproofed. Nobody bothered anyone else. Randy didn't really have time to be an actual father. But he could play daddy when necessary. He liked that. Why was Randy working so hard? Because he had a dream, a fixation. He was tracing all sorts of weird biochemical molecular structures, trying to fit them together in different ways. Randy hit pay dirt. He discovered a compound that quickly congealed and crystallized proteins. And what was the major application of this compound? Embalming. Randy had done some cross-training in mortuary science. He first became interested in this when he worked summers at his uncle's funeral parlor as a teenager. All the undertakers in the business complained about the lousy chemicals they had to work with to sufficiently embalm a corpse. Randy's compound, which he called fast freeze, changed everything. Just hang the cadaver, drain its blood, and start a small drip of fast freeze. Within an hour, all the body's tissues, including organs and skin and blood and bones, would harden and stiffen. The proteins became hard crystals, metal hard, not fragile. No shattering and no rot. Position the body as desired, and it stays put. Fast freeze wasn't perfect. Undertakers had to be very careful with it. If any got into the bloodstream of a live organism, the pulse would drive the compound throughout the living body. A few careless undertakers were embalmed alive. This limited its commercial acceptance. So Randy's continuing research was aimed at making fast freeze a bit less sensitive. It couldn't just be diluted, its structure needed changing. This research was long and hard and eventually fruitless. Some scientists get grouchy when their work doesn't produce results. Some see failures as good learning experiences. Randy had a bit of both. Failure to perfect fast freeze so it would be safe to use just drove him to more intensive research, more effort, longer hours. But he also got grumpy, with stomach pains. God damn it, Sue Ann, this is starting to piss me off. I just can't get the molecular structures right. I know you'll finally nail it, baby. Just like you nailed me. Hey, let's do peach some more. He grinned a little. Yeah, okay, I'm up for that. Ouch. My ulcer is giving me a gut ache again. Pass me the Malox, hey? I poured some more rum into the bottle and passed it over. He liked that special mix. He took a slug and nailed my peach again. I screamed my usual pleasure. His grumpiness had a side effect. He couldn't concentrate as hard on chemical theory and maintaining semi-abstract thoughts. He actually started noticing more of what was happening around him. He looked closer at the house, and the twins, and Maria and Hector and me. He wasn't putting pieces together yet, but he sometimes had a curious expression on his long face. The twins were 5 years old now. They didn't look a lot like him, or me. They looked slightly oriental. I guess Hideo was the biological father. The twins were fluent in Boston English, and Honduran Spanish and Haitian French, thanks to Maria and Hector. They were friendly with all the uncles and aunts that came visiting. They got used to seeing naked adults. Domestic life crumbled one night. I had friends with me in the party room. Randy worked late in the lab as usual, but he quit quite early for a change and came home. I hadn't closed the party room door. Randy stood in the doorway in his lab clothes and saw Laetitia eating me while Juan loved. Hey, what's this? What's going on here, Sue Ann? Randy did not sound happy. Oh baby, we're just partying. Just like the old days, remember? Come on and join us. You're my wife, Sue Ann. Get these people out of here. We need to talk. My friends disentangled and dressed and left. I threw on her robe and followed Randy into our bedroom. We both sat on the edge of the bed. Randy looked into my eyes. Is that what you do while I'm working in the lab all day and night? Screw around? Jesus Christ, Sue Ann. What's happened to our marriage? This is what our marriage has always been like, Randy. I work and make money so you can spend your life in school and the lab and doing whatever you want. I work and make money to pay for this townhouse and the staff and the kids and our lives. I relax and have fun the way I want, with whoever I want, and I deserve it, because I work and make the money that pays for everything. But Sue-Ann, you're my wife, you're not a single party girl anymore. Oh shit, there goes my ulcer again. Where's my Maalox? I found his bottle on a shelf but didn't see any rum nearby. I did see a little 1-ounce bottle like they have for drinks on airlines, and I poured its liquor into the Maalox and passed it over to Randy. He took a big slug. He grimaced at the taste. Jesus love, what did you put in this? I handed him the little bottle. Holy shit, Sue-Ann, this isn't rum, it's a sample of Fast Freeze. You've killed me, you bitch! The Fast Freeze went right into Randy's stomach, his bleeding ulcer, his bloodstream. He toppled over. His eyes glazed. He shivered and stopped breathing. I felt his pulse. Nothing. Oh shit. I panicked. What to do, what to do? Just one image flashed through my mind, an old James Thurber cartoon. Two well-dressed couples stand in a mansion's library room. Another well-dressed woman crouches atop a bookshelf, looking down at the others. One gentleman says, "Here is my wife, and this is the former Mrs. Pomeroy." The viewer must decide whether the crouching former Mrs. Pomeroy is alive, glaring, and ready to pounce, or a well-done bit of taxidermy. I quickly made my decision. I called for Maria and Hector. We pushed Randy's body into a hands and knees crouching position before he stiffened completely. We waited until he froze solid. Then we boosted him onto the wide mantel of the fireplace in the party room. I wrapped up Randy's affairs the next day. I told the lab that he had finally abandoned the project. I told his family and his few remaining friends that he went on sabbatical to Moscow. I told the twins that Daddy had gone away for a while. Then I sent them off to boarding school. I told Maria and Hector to never say anything to anybody. And I said nothing else to anyone. That chapter was closed. Life goes on pretty much as it did before, but without Randy, not that anybody really misses him. I still make good. I invest that money, and it pays well. I still party hardy. And all the partying here happens in the party room, with Randy's oh-so-realistic statue sternly looking down on the action. Visitors giggle at him. Yes, my life is a full-time love party. And now it happens right under his eyes.